Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of High School Basketball Weekly. I'm Rick Boua, joined again by John Franzoni. Thanks a lot for joining us, everybody. And John, we've come to the end of the regular season. We're going to be reporting on some of the regular season endings for the four local schools. We do both boys and girls, but we're also right smack dab in the middle of the Little Western Mass gig, the class A, B, C, and D that was started about 3 years ago by the Pioneer Valley Conference, and we're having a lot of fun with that so far. So we've got a lot to report. We might also get started. We're going to start with the girls. And we're going to start, first of all, with McCann Tech. Coach Justin Krantz's girls picked up 2 wins a couple of weeks ago, which I was very, very glad to see. And then they played a couple of close games that they didn't come out on the winning end on, John. And I didn't have any a box score to report upon, but they fell to Mohawk Trail 31-29. But at least it tells me that they got a couple wins under their belt, that the kids stuck with the program. It's just going to take a little bit of time, I think.
Yeah, I think Coach Kratz is obviously a veteran, experienced, successful coach, and he's finished up his second year with the girls program at McCann, and there's some good young players in that program, so they got to stick with it, listen to their coach, work in the offseason to get better, and to their credit, they had some very, very competitive games at the end of the season, like you mentioned, a couple of wins, so they kept at it right till the end, and good signs for next year.
Yeah, Brooke Reynolds, Aiden Champney, Faith Brazo, all kids that will be returning next year, so they were young, and we talk about that all the time here on High School Basketball Weekly, John. The youth, 8th graders making starts and coming in and just making positive moves. 9th graders, 10th graders. It's really a tribute to the youth programs and the programs that we cover here in Northern Berkshire.
Yeah, I mean we're very fortunate for many not just years, decades. North Berkshire's had quality boys and girls youth basketball leagues, and it's a different world now. There's not as many kids at the high school, so younger kids are getting an opportunity to play, and thankfully the youth leagues are getting them ready for that early opportunity that most kids and student athletes didn't get in the when we were in school, put it that way. So or even 10, 15 years ago when I was coaching, we didn't have very rarely did you have a freshman on the varsity. When you had a freshman, they were pretty special players to get that varsity opportunity, and now there are more opportunities based on the numbers, and the kids are stepping up to the challenge.
And McCann will end their season, John, tonight as they play host. To St. Mary of Westfield, and hopefully they'll stay very competitive and hopefully pull out a win. It'd be great to end the season with a win, because most teams that are in tournaments would love to have that happen. Right. Most teams, as you know, end up not on the winning side of the ledger. So good job, Coach Krantz and the kids at McCann Tech, and stick with that program, work hard in the offseason, and we'll report next week on the St. Mary game. We'll move to the Mount Greylock Mounties, John, from Williamstown. They started the season pretty strong. They were in the Franklin Tech tournament. I thought that was a great place for Coach Jacoby's kids to start. They won that tournament. They were 5-5 at one time once they got into league play, but they've hit a skid of 10 in a row. They're 5-15. They ended up 1-9 in the league. In their last regular season game, John, they lost to Lee 55-43. Senior Mia Filio was the leading scorer, and we've been talking about Tanley Drake all year long, the outstanding guard at Mount Greylock, and her sister, AJ Pelkey, and a few others. But we haven't talked about Mia Filio very much, but she's stuck with that program all the way through her career and led the way with 15. Tanley Drake did have 11, and Madison, her sister, also double figures with 10. So even though it wasn't a win when you have three kids in double figures, sometimes that'll bring a victory. It just didn't happen this time.
Right. I mean, I saw Mount Greylock play a couple Fridays ago at PHS. I'm living in Pittsfield now. It's a short ride for me, and I got to watch the second half in a game that they played against probably the best team in the county on the girls' side this year. And even though they were on the short end of that game, you could see Coach Jacoby coaching his girls right to the end, helping them try to beat the press, working on fundamentals. And it's no surprise that they finished the season off with a couple of good efforts against teams down the stretch, even though they were in in a little bit of a losing stretch at the end of the season. Coach Jacoby, same thing as Coach Kratz. High quality, successful veteran coaches. If you listen to them as a player, you're going to get better, and that's what you have to challenge the kids to do. And I've said this many times. When you go through adversity, you show what kind of character you have. How do you approach that? And that's one thing that sports is really very important with. They teach very valuable lessons to players, that things don't go your way all the time, and how do you react when they don't. So it's the best thing you can do to start on a positive track is to listen to your coach and work hard and keep getting better.
The Mounties lost their final 2 games also, John, 41-25 against Southwick. There was no box score to report upon, but they also lost their final game just the other day to Chicopee, 64-48. And again, senior Mia Filio finished her career scoring 14. And for her efforts this week, Mount Greylock senior Mia Filio is our girls player of the week. 14 against Lee, 15 against Chicopee. And again, she's added value to that team. It doesn't always, John, as you know, show up in the scoring column. It might show up with the assists or rebounds or defense. It might just be defense alone. But she's been a 2 or 3 year starter for Coach Jacoby over there. And with the great week that she had, and Tanley Drake missing the last couple of games. I don't have a report on Tanley whether it was an injury or illness. There's so much flu and cold going around this area. Right. So, but congratulations to Mia Filio for a great career over at Mount Greylock.
There's a good example of a senior leader right there, right? The season didn't finish the way I'm sure she wanted to for her team and her basketball career, but she's competing and battling to the end, scoring double digits, leading her team the right way on the court, playing hard and doing the right things, setting a good example for that young team.
We're going to move on now to the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes. Their last regular season game, they easily defeated Amherst, a team that was giving them fits a couple years ago, but the program is down right now, 61-14. Ashlyn LaShore led the way for the Hurricanes with 18. Genevieve Legesse had 12. Emma Meswar 10. Those 3 young ladies have been scoring double figures when it wasn't Legesse. I'm sorry. It was Shea. Reagan. Thanks, John. And she did have 9 points in that ball game. Then they got into Western Mass Class D play at home, defeated number 8 Hopkins 66-24. LaSure with 17, Legesse with 11, Meswar 10. So again, Coach Frederick is getting double figures from 3, sometimes 4 scores.
Yeah, I think one of the keys to Hoosick down the stretch has been the play of Legesse and Reagan Shea, and also the 8th grader Wittix. And they've had some good efforts and contributions, because here's a team that lost 4, high quality seniors from last year's championship team. They also had Marin Carpinello go down during the season.
That's right. Yeah.
So but they've had some young players step up, and I think we talked earlier about the opportunities that young players are getting. Being led by 2 veteran seniors and Emma Meswar and Ashlyn LaShure has certainly benefited those younger players to play all throughout the season with that mix of veteran experience and youth. So Coach Frederick seems to have them humming right now at the best time of the year in the tournament. So
right.
They're going to be tough in the tournament.
They're going to be very tough. They last night faced number 4 Granby. Because we record this program on Wednesday, we show it for the first time on Thursday. We won't be able to report on that game against Granby until next week. But hopefully things will go favorable for Coach Frederick's kids, and they'll be in the finals on Saturday, the 20th. So we're going to move to the Drury Blue Devils. And the Blue Devils moved on to the Class C semifinals by defeating Mahar the other night, 58-25. Drury used a 23-2 run, John, between the second and third quarters to run away. And Jacinta Felix had the best game, absolutely the best game of the season, in my opinion. She always plays hard. She always rebounds. She always assists. She's a great defender. She hasn't taken as many shots this year, according to Coach Ian Downey. That's why her scoring's been down. She's been trying to make her teammates better by feeding them. But she had open shots last night. And she didn't disappoint. She scored a season-high 21 points with 8 rebounds and 3 assists. And if she could play anything like that against Renaissance, they're going to be in that ball game, John.
Yeah, talk about senior leadership, and Jacinta Felix obviously is a great example of that for Drury. Sounded like she took the game over last night. The team was struggling offensively a little bit in the first half. Coach Downey talked about their great effort on defense, which is important, but to win the game, you got to put the ball in the hoop, and Jacinta stepped up, scored a bunch of points during that run to put the game away. And right, when she's playing at that level, Drury's a real high-quality team. They have a lot of depth. They have a lot of athleticism. And but she's, as the old saying goes, she's a straw that stirs the drink, right? So she's the one that's going to make things go for them. She's the one that's going to set the tone. And if she's going to score 20 points a game, Drury's going to be a tough out.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And also in that ball game, Ashlyn Hayden scored 8, and Elise Daly had 7. All 9 players that got off the bench or entered the game for Coach Downey scored in the contest. And Drury played without Hannah Lacasse and Eva Moser. Again, Eva battling a flu, and Hannah was there last night, just wasn't able to go. And also getting towards the latter end of the game, or the second half, was Lily Moranti, who played well in the first half. But there's a lot of flus and colds and bugs going around right now. And no excuses. All teams are being affected by that.
That's tough with this format, too, right? Because you're playing on Tuesday night, and then you're playing on Thursday night, and if you win that, you're playing on Saturday.
That's
so
right.
There's not a lot of time to rest. I think it's great that they've preserved the form of the Western Mass tournament for the kids. We'll say from a personal standpoint, I miss the old format, but it's great that the kids have this opportunity to play and compete. But like Coach, I saw Coach Rissette's comment about the boys' game today. It's a grind right now. You're playing a game one night, you're practicing. If you win, you're going to play the next night. So there's no time to rest.
Exactly. And we're kind of ahead of schedule, John, right now. We'll be talking about the boys here coming up in a couple of minutes. But I just wanted to talk very, very briefly about Nicole Patella's kids. But before we do, I want to show you, we'll go right back to the format for Western Mass if we can. And there's first of all, there's the power ratings. The MIA puts out every Tuesday and Friday. And girls in D5, you can see Hopedale has taken over the number 1 seed over Hoosick Valley. So the Hurricanes did nothing wrong. They were 16-3 last week, and they were number 1. But based on the power rankings, the way that the MIA does that, Hopedale takes over the number 1 seed, Hoosick Valley. Number 2, Lennox still undefeated at 19-0. And also Renaissance, we play in Drury, 19-0. There's the Blue Devils right below Renaissance, 10-9, and then Lee. The other teams below Lee are all Western Mass teams, and then in D4, Cathedral is the number 1, Wacona number 15 at 11-6. But I want to talk a minute, John. There's the pairings, and Peter, you can put those back up if you get an opportunity in our control room. Thanks. There's the Class C on top, and you see number 1 Lennox is playing number 4 Lee. So there's the battle of the South Berkshire rivals. And then Drury's going to go to Renaissance for the 2nd consecutive year. In Class D, Hoosick Valley will be hosting Granby, and Munson will be hosting Pioneer Valley Christian. Over in Class B, PHS, which you called, and you're probably correct, John, the best girls team in Berkshire County this year at 18-1. They're going to be facing Belchertown, Frontier, number 5. And then you got South Hadley, the number 2 seed, playing Springfield International. So before we go to the boys, just very, very quickly, John, I just wanted to feature Nicole Patella's Lennox Millionaires. And it's a team that I got to see this year. They battled in a game that we did here on Northern Berkshire Television, Channel 1302. They defeated Drury up at the Bucky Billet Gym 41-38 in a game that was very close all the way through. Game was tied at 30 after 3. They just found a way to equal it out. Drury went down and beat Lennox last week. But regardless of who they've played so far or where they are in the power rankings, that's pretty incredible going 18-0 and now 19-0.
Yeah, I mean, they've been a quality program for a while now. I think it was 2 years ago we did their Western Mass tournament game at Hoosick, and a lot of that core is still together, playing as now they're more veteran players, as they were young, up-and-coming team at that point. And to go 19-0 in a season is impressive. And Renaissance is also 19-0 that Drury's going to play tomorrow night. So it's only thing standing in the way of 2 20-0 teams playing for the Western Mass title is, I think, the Blue Devils. I think Lennox will advance over Lee, and then the key is, can Drury get over that hump they've had on the road? Can they get off to a good start and play against a quality program in their gym and not get in a hole early
Right.
so they can have a chance to win. That's the key in that game to me. Is can Drury win that basketball game? Can they get up to a good start? And if not, then we have two 20-0 teams playing for the Western Mass title. So that'll be interesting to see how that all plays out the next couple of days this week.
Yeah, I think Lennox's league is just a little bit stronger. Renaissance not quite as much, but then they've been crushing their opponents, and they're a very good program down there. So
Right.
we'll see how things work out.
Always something we want to do. You play at home. You don't have to go on that hour and 45-minute bus ride. That's a big advantage. So that's what you work hard all year. Lennox has worked hard to get that home advantage, and so has Renaissance. And now Drury's got to go and take it away from on their own court.
Yeah, best of luck to Coach Frederick with his Hurricanes, and best of luck to Coach Ian Downey with his Blue Devils, and hopefully we'll have some positive results to report next week. Let's move over to the boys right now. We'll start with the Mount Greylock Mounties. And John, they did it. They picked up their first win. It took them all season long, and I was really, really hoping for that program because I don't know Coach Verdell. I've never met him. I don't know most of the players. But I don't know that much about the program. But I do know one thing for sure: it's a team that we do cover here, at least on High School Basketball Weekly. And I wanted so badly for those kids to taste of victory, and they did by topping Pathfinder 44-23. Quite a significant victory there. Thomas Warren led the way with 12, and. But it's been kind of sophomore Nolan Barnes' season. He's been the one scoring bright spot for Tommy Verdell.
Yeah, I mean, Nolan Barnes is a great kid. He's worked hard as a sophomore to score double digits. The last time I saw, I think he was a number 9 leading scorer in Berkshire County as a sophomore, and that's impressive. And to keep battling through a tough season like they had and come out with their first win, that's great for the kids. It's nice to have a positive end to your season, and hopefully, again, just like we talked about with a couple of the girls' teams. It's important to keep that positive mindset going, to keep working hard in the offseason and come back ready to go. Look at Lennox. I mean, we talked about them a couple of years ago being a young team and getting beat in an early round game, but they kept working at it. Now they're an undefeated team. So you hope that the coach over there, Coach Verdell, a young coach, and his team will keep working at it. And when they get these kids a little bit older, a little stronger, a little more mature, they can have some more success.
That's absolutely correct, John. And I just want to make one correct. I made an incorrect statement. I used the date of the finals as the 20th. It's actually the 21st, I believe, John, or 22nd.
Saturday the 22nd.
So this 22nd, without a calendar in front of me. So, and Greylock will end their season tonight, Thursday the 20th, as they play St. Mary. So good luck to them. Hopefully they'll also do what McCann is trying to do and with a victory. The McCann Tech Hornets. Congratulations to Coach Bullitt. They were the little train, up the hill. Will it make it? And it did, and it hit 500. The Hornets ended up at 10-10, only 1-9 in the league. They had a lot of issues with teams in their league, but they took care of everybody else, and they won their last 4 games, John. And even though they did not qualify for the Western Mass tournament in Class C or D, they will participate in the MIA Division V tournament.
Well, I would say as much as I kind of was, saying I didn't enjoy this tournament format earlier, one of the positive points is the teams that don't make the Western Mass tournament get 2 extra games because to get to 20, your maximum number of games.
That's right, yeah.
And McKeon won their last 4 games after being 6-10, 2 in that regular season and 2 during that play-in, I guess I would call it, extra games for the teams that didn't make Western Mass. So they, to their coaches' credit and to their players' credit, they kept battling. They won their last 4. Now they're 10-10, and now they're qualified for the state tournament. So that's a big congratulations and a round of applause for the McKeon boys and their coach for not giving up, for sticking with it, and overcoming a tough start to the season to finish at 500 and qualifying for the state tournament.
Yeah, it's a little atypical for Coach Bullitt's kids. They usually do participate. They don't get a real high seed, but they usually do participate in Western Mass. They didn't qualify this year, but congratulations to them for making the MIA Division V tournament. In the win against Hopkins Academy, 48-36, a couple of kids that we don't get to mention very often. Alex McDermott and Musa Thompson, each with 9 points, led the way. Several kids for Coach Bullitt scored in that game. And the victory over Turner's Falls, 50-40, the two usual scores of Zach Howland and Eric Russo each scored double figures with 10. So it's good that when your two top scorers score but don't hit double figures, that a couple of kids really stepped up. So congratulations to Coach Bullitt and good luck as you start play very, very shortly in the MIAA D5 tournament. We'll go to the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes, John. A little different this year for Coach Robinson. He only dropped 3 games last year. He usually has an incredible regular season record. They ended up 7-11 overall, and we did the big game last week up at Drury. You and myself and Tim Morey had a lot of fun doing that ball game. They lost to the Blue Devils 62-49. Trey Moynihan led the way with 15. Aiden Wicks and Quinnell Bradley each scored 13. So they got double figures from their 3 top scorers, but they were held in check, I would say, John. Usually they come away with a victory with those 3 kids. But Drury did a nice defensive job, I thought, on the Hurricanes.
Yeah, Drury's defense was the key to that win. Varellis did a great job making their guards work. They had just a good team effort. And that's the thing with Hoosick. There's a lot of focus and attention on Moynihan and Wicks and Bradley. And that's, who else can step up to score for them, I guess. It's great they have those 3 high-quality players, but it seems like that's where they struggled in that game, was getting consistent scoring from somebody else, and also consistent scoring when those 3 players were having some struggles that night too. So that's what the tournament's about, getting through that grind and trying to find a way to win. And I said, throughout the year, Hoosick's had some games where they've scored points. So they're going to be tough if a team hasn't scouted them and prepared for those 3 players, because they can really put the ball in the hoop. And the key thing is they're just, as they have been the last couple of years, they're not that deep. So if they get a player in foul trouble or one that's struggling out of that big 3, it's a challenge. And you can't put the ball in the hoop with the other players. But, again, another team with some young players that are working hard and getting better. And they're another great coach who will have them ready for their tournament games, in Coach Robinson.
Absolutely. And they took one on the chin, John, in their final regular season game to South Hadley, 80-45. But they had to play back-to-back. That was the Drury game, and then they had to go to South Hadley. And then they had to play right away, play to Mount Everett. That game was at home, and they did defeat the Eagles of Mount Everett 74-59. Moynihan with 24 and Wicks with 23. So big games for them. And they last night took on number 2 Duggan Academy. And again, because of the way we shoot this show and show it on Thursday, we will be reporting on that game, and hopefully they'll pull out a winner report on the finals next program.
I would say it's a great win against Mount Everett in the first round of the Western Mass tournament. You have to play Friday after playing Tuesday at Drury. Late night there with some delays for that game. Very emotional game always between the boys. And then going to South Hadley on Wednesday. And then all of a sudden you got one quick day of practice, which I'm not sure how much they could have gotten done that day with their schedule. And then come and play Mount Everett, who has a good team this year, and gave them a good run on Friday night. So, congratulations to Coach Robinson and his team for that win on Friday night, and good luck in the semifinals to them.
And we'll conclude the boys, John, with the Drury Blue Devils. Another great season with some young men that couldn't start the season, with Miles Beauchamp and Connor Hinkle. Connor was able to work his way back probably a quarter of the way into the season. Miles Beauchamp did not be able to participate because of the injury he sustained during soccer, and then some illness he's endured over the last couple of weeks. But it was really, really great to see him out on senior night. He got to start with the rest of the seniors. He got to play a couple of minutes, and the Blue Devils took care of business, defeating the Hurricanes, as we said, 62-49. And Sam Moorman, John, I know you were very, very gracious with your comments on him. I thought he was the player of the game. He had a game high 27, definitely the best game I saw him play this year, and I think Coach Rossett would probably say the same thing.
Yeah, that's as watching Sam play the last 3 years at Drury. That's as a good a game as I've seen him play. He was dominating that night. He played tremendous efficiently on offense. he dominated the boards, and he played some great defense, blocking some shots. And also, I give him a lot of credit because he had 3 fouls in the third quarter. I don't think he got another foul.
Yeah, we got some action here in that game, John. There's Matt Whittick, the senior, knocking down a 3 for the first shot of the whole ball game. Hinkle had nothing there, and he gives it to Mormon. Sammy drives the left lane, the lane left, and goes up with the left hand, scores. He was very strong. You can see Bond looking for the ball. They find him. He knocks down a 3 early in the first half of that ball game. Trey Moynihan, the outstanding freshman sharpshooter from way back, knocking down a 3 for the Hurricanes to keep them right in it. Hinkle sees that 3, doesn't take it very often, and he just can't make that one go. But there's the putback by Mormon again. He's had a strong night both offensively, defensively. Rebounds. There's a nice backdoor cut. Freshman Sam Bullitt. Quennell Bradley, who's an inside guy, decided he was going to take a 3, knock him down. And then, of course, Aiden Wicks, very late in the ballgame, does a step-back 3 and makes the score a little bit more respectable. Drury had an 18-point lead when that basket was made. But that's the best overall game I think Drury played all season long.
Yeah, I think that was, again, a great win for Drury. They had, I think they had 51 combined points in that game from Sam Mormon and Jorge Bond. I think the coach would like to see a little more scoring from his other players, but he knows those are his 2 go-to players. They're going to score, and they're going to win in advance. They're going to need them to score like that. But, just an example of, how just great coaching that Hoosick gets from Coach Robinson and Drury from Coach Rissat was that basket on that backdoor cut to Sam Bullitt. That was their first possession, I believe, in scoring play of the second half in that game. And we talked about in the first half how only 2 players had scored for Drury, and that's Coach Rissat, getting his players, all of his players involved and setting up a play, and Sam Bullitt going strong. And he's had some real quality minutes this year for a young player for Drury, and he's going to be key in the tournament along with Connor Hinkle, who's always been a strong all-around player for Drury, the defense from Varelis, and you're going to need some kids to hit some big shots like Varelis, Durant, and other kids that have come off the bench to play this year, Alvarez. Yep. So it's going to be a tough battle for Drury against Ware, but if they play the way they played against Hoosick, they're going to be very difficult to beat.
Well, Drury's going to make it to the Class C semifinals, John, after a pretty hard-fought 47-39 win over number 7 Athol. And, Athol plays in the same league as Mount Greylock, and they tied for first place with Lee, who Drury handled quite easily. I don't think the strength of that league is anything like the Hoosick Valley's league or the Hampshire South where the Drury Blue Devils are, but they were a very impressive ball club. They were very athletic and very quick, and they gave Drury fits. And this is the first Drury victory where they did not score 50 points, but holding an opponent to 39 is always, you're always going to find a way. It was 19-15 at the half and 36-23 after 3. And, you mentioned Jorge Bond scoring 24 in the Hoosick Valley game. Well, he did it again last night. He scored 24 on 5 threes, and he was double teamed most of the night. So he scored 24 points back-to-back, and for his efforts, Jorge Bond is going to be our high school boys player of the week. He's just an incredible kid, John. He's so basketball smart and intelligent. He wants the basketball. Coach Rissat wants him to have the basketball in his hands. It's a totally different chemistry of that team when he's not on the floor, which is very, very seldom. He has not got himself in foul trouble in quite some time. And when he's on the floor, he plays almost every minute of every game when Coach Rissat needs him. And he is the backbone of that team only as a 10th grader. And he's incredible to watch. And they were draping 2 or 3 kids around him. And in the second half, they slowed him down a little bit, but they didn't stop him. That's how good Jorge Bond is.
A very mature player, especially for a sophomore. He's been playing, obviously, on varsity since he's been 8th grade. But you rarely see him force a shot. He takes good shots. He takes quality shots. Yep. And he finds his teammates and passes the ball when his shot isn't available. And I'm just very impressed with the way he plays the game and helps his teammates be better also.
So Drury will be playing number 3 Ware at the Buckeye Village Gym. It's a game that we will be broadcasting here on Northern Berkshire Community Television. You'll be able to hear all about it next week and watch the replays also. So we got a minute or so left. We'd like to take a look at the power rankings on the MIA, the final power rankings that came out during the regular season. Pioneer Valley, the incredible Pioneer Valley team coached by Scott Thayer at 19-0, number 1. They were in the Final Four last year. I predicted them to be there again. There's the Drury Blue Devils at number 6 at 14-5. Lee 15-4. Hoosick Valley 8-11, and then Mount Everett, the other Berkshire County team, at 11-9. Monument Mountain is 16-2, still hanging around at number 5. And there's the Western Mass. You can see in the Class C, it's going to be number 1 Granby against Mahar, number 2 Drury Blue Devils hosting Ware. The winners will face off Saturday at a site to be determined. Class B, we've got number 1 Pioneer Valley playing Smith Academy. I think they'll make the finals. I'm almost pretty sure, and we'll see if the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes can knock off Duggan. I think it's going to be a very, very close, good ball game. Hopefully, the Hurricanes will pull that out. And over in B, we've got the big Pittsfield matchup with Taconic and PHS. Most likely, as I say, unless South Hadley can find a way to knock off Monument, it's going to be Monument Mountain. So, John, thanks very much for joining us again this week. It's a full 30 minutes of basketball. We seem to always fit it in. And High School Basketball Weekly, as we've mentioned many, many times here, can be seen on channel 1302, Northern Berkshire Community Television, every Thursday night at 7:30. Replayed on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock and Sunday evenings at 7. Stay tuned after this broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, for the Drury Hoosick boys game. It's already been played, but if you haven't seen it, you'll have a chance to watch it after High School Basketball Weekly. For John Franzoni and for Peter Gentile, for Joanne Hurlbut, I'm Rick Bois saying thanks. We'll see you again next week.